How's it going, everybody? So, the Guilty Gear Strive beta has officially ended. And yeah, it was a pretty fun experience. There were obviously some ups and downs. There were some things that I thought the beta did really amazingly. Some things that were kind of like pain points in the beta. But overall, I had a great time. And I thought what we would do today is I'm just going to run through what I thought were some of the real big positives that happened with the beta, and then some things that were more on the negative side that hopefully we might be able to see change before the game finally comes out. One note before we get into it, there is a survey that I'll link you guys that Arc System Works released, where basically you can give them your thoughts on the game, and I think it's important that we fill that out. If you played the beta, let them know what you liked, what you didn't like, etc. But let's get into the bullet point list here, and we'll start off with things that I thought were really great in the beta. Alright, so getting into the pros here, what I thought was really good in the beta. Number one, I think, is obviously the graphics. I think it's like impossible to look at this game and not think the graphics are really amazing. Like, I think from the stages to the characters to the effects to everything, like, I think this is literally like the best looking fighting game ever. I used to say I think it's like the best looking 3D graphics fighting game, because some of those old games like Third Strike and like Marvel 2, the sprites still hold up, but like this game is really, really amazing looking. Something I was noticing, even like just sitting around in training mode, like, it's crazy how every move that a character does kind of tells a story. It reminds me a lot of Darkstalkers or like Vampire Savior, where like each move has such an interesting idea behind it. They're not just punches and kicks. They involve the character's gimmicks in interesting ways. They communicate the character's personalities. So like, whoever's doing the art and the character design for these games is knocking it out of the park every single time. Obviously, Dragon Ball FighterZ and Grand Blue Fantasy looked great as well, but I think this game even looks better than those. It's unbelievable. So I think that's honestly the number one pro in Guilty Gear Strive so far, is no other fighting game looks this good, at least not yet. Number two, on things that I thought were great in the beta, is the netcode. Obviously, there were some concerns that the last beta was still using delay-based netcode. They had said, hey, we're going to have rollback, but like there have been games with rollback that aren't very playable, like Street Fighter V and like Tekken. They keep saying Tekken has rollback, but it doesn't feel like rollback. It feels like really bad delay-based. But anyway, this game, the rollback is perfection. In fact, this match that's playing in the background here, this was US, Chicago, not even East Coast or West Coast, Chicago, US to Japan, 150 milliseconds, and it just played perfectly. I mean, I'm not going to say it felt exactly like offline, but it was close enough. It was very playable. You could still get the experience like you're playing the real game. You never feel like you got robbed by the netcode. I think I played probably over 100 matches in the beta, and literally 2 of them were unplayable. I had 2 matches that were like literally I couldn't do anything. They had like 300 ping, but every other match was playable. If you play a game like Dragon Ball FighterZ, it feels like 1 in 10 are unplayable, or like 1 in 5. It happens a lot where you're just playing matches that are stuttery, huge amounts of delay, a gigantic pain. So they completely nailed it with the netcode. We've been begging for rollback for so long, and they finally did it, and they did it really, really well. So I was really amazed by the rollback. So number 3 on the list of pros here is going to be the training mode. So this game, I was very happy with the training mode in this game. It has pretty much all the features that you would want and expect. You know, obviously it's got like dummy recording, it's got like random guard, random counter hit, and it even has some features that not a lot of training modes have. Like you can do whatever action you want as like a counter attack. So you can like have them do a recording after blocking. You can have them do whatever move you want after blocking. Like you can test, is this move safe against this move? Like, what happens if they mash jab here? There's a lot of really good stuff in this training mode. The only thing that's missing is frame data, which is unfortunate. You can't see if something is plus or minus just by looking at it. Please, Arcsys, add that to the game. Dragon Ball FighterZ got frame data in training mode eventually. I think it took them a little while, so I'm really, really hoping they can put it in this. That would really make my day. But other than that one omission, I was very pleased with the training mode. It seemed like they put a lot of work into it to make sure it has all the features that us hardcore fighting game gamers are always asking for. Oh, one more thing I really like about the training mode. If you're matching from training mode, you play your match, like is happening here on screen, and then you go back to training mode. No loading. Look at it's in the we're back into training mode already. No loading. So I've never seen any other fighting game do this. That's a genius move. Every other fighting game, please start doing it. It just keeps the same stage and opponent character so that you don't have to load new ones. That's a great feature. I hope every game does that from now on. And if you want to fight against a specific character, you can turn that feature off, and then you'll just have to wait through a loading screen when it goes back to training. But I love that. It feels really, really good. Okay, and the last pro I wanted to talk about here is I feel like the gameplay is just very fun and intuitive. It feels good to press buttons in this game, and it's pretty easy to kind of figure out and understand what's going on. I definitely think it's more intuitive than the previous Guilty Gear games. Part of that is because the game is heavily simplified from the previous Guilty Gear games. That's some stuff I'm going to talk about in the cons section. But generally, I think for anyone who has like an interest in fighting games, you're just going to be able to have fun playing this game. You don't need to be ultra uber hardcore. It feels good to press buttons. Movement feels good. The game's fast and exciting, and I think it's really enjoyable. So overall, I did enjoy the gameplay. So after talking about these pros, the things that I really liked about the game and the beta, we're going to jump into the things that kind of bummed me out about the beta. Overall, I did have a positive experience with the beta, but there were some issues that I do think need a little bit of addressing. Okay, so the number one issue with the beta, I think most people would agree on this, is the lobby. This thing stinks. I feel like a lot of people thought when we were playing this lobby in the original beta, people were like, well, it's just placeholder. They're going to fix it. They're going to make the lobby good. Guys, they didn't make the lobby good. It's not just the fact that, you know, it's got these very, like, old school 2D graphics, like throwback retro feel, which I don't think is that bad, but I do think it doesn't really look much like Guilty Gear. Sure, you're walking around like in Guilty Gear outfits, but is this what you think of when you think of Guilty Gear? I don't know. But not just that, but also it just doesn't work. The lobby just does not work at all. It's really, really hard to get into matches. It's so confusing and laggy. Like, people are teleporting around. I tried to play with a friend, and what ended up happening was I would be like, hey, I'm over here standing by, you know, this little house or whatever. And then he would be like, oh, I see you. But I wouldn't see him. And then 45 seconds later, he would teleport over there because the lag would finally catch up. It really, really does not work. The whole point of a lobby is just to get you into matches. And this is really, really bad at getting you into matches. There was also no rematch. I hope that's just because of the beta. If there's no rematch in the final game and you have to go back to the lobby in between every matches, that is a massive failure on Arc System Works' part, and they should really rethink that, because that would be a nightmare. There better be rematch in the final game. Like, there has to be, right? It just seems like such an obvious thing. But at the same time, I feel like the lobby is obviously bad, so maybe they're like not noticing things that are obvious to us when we play it. But man, this lobby sucks. It just doesn't work at all. It doesn't work. It's like impossible to get matches. Everyone's just confused, standing around with their swords out, wondering why it's been 15 minutes since the last time they've gotten a match. I don't get it, guys. So this lobby is trash. Once you get into the games, it's great because the netcode is so good. But between games, it's trash. It doesn't work. Okay, the next con that I wanted to talk about here is the UI. I will say the UI is greatly improved from the first beta. They made a lot of important changes to make it a lot more usable. But it still ain't great, to be honest. Like, I do not like at all how the bars and the meters look. They look very, like, Photoshop, like they were made in a Photoshop tutorial. They do not look like Guilty Gear. That feels like something I'm going to be saying a lot. They put, like, what looks like lower back tattoos all over the UI, which I guess they're trying to make it look more heavy metal, and it looks okay. But overall, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of how tiny the risk gauge is. I think that is an insane decision. This is an important mechanic that matters a lot, but it's like really, really hard to see in the heat of battle how much risk gauge you have, because this thing is like a millimeter wide. I also don't like the combo counter. Like, I'm getting used to it. The more I play, oh my god, and the counter hit notification when the screen fills up with the word counter, it's just all very distracting. I understand that these things were put in to make the game eye-catching, to make people who don't play fighting games be able to look at it and be like, wow, that looks exciting, I want to play that. But when you're actually playing the game, it just distracts you. It takes you out of the experience. I'm not a fan of it. Again, it's so weird how it's like the graphics are amazing, but the UI is kind of bad. The online play is amazing, but the online lobbies are kind of bad. It's very uneven, some of these things. It's interesting. All right, and the last negative con I want to talk about here is that characters, to me, feel overly simplified. So this is something that people have been talking about a lot, is like, is the game too dumbed down? Is it too easy? Are they getting rid of the difficulty that we're used to from Guilty Gear? And I think in a lot of ways they've maintained the Guilty Gear feel, but it just feels like a lot is missing, right? Like a lot of characters just have like half as many moves. And I know that sometimes it's like certain moves are not that useful, you don't use them very often, but like, I don't know, it just feels very limiting to pick a character and be like, oh, I only have 4 moves. I only have 4 special moves that I can use. Whereas in a previous game, they might have had like 6, 7, even more for some characters. So they feel very simplified. Combos feel very, very simplified as well. Obviously, there was some kind of crazy stuff found when the beta went public in terms of infinites and stuff like that I'm sure is going to get patched out. But in terms of just like figuring out combo routes, you just feel like you run into the wall of what's possible very quickly. And also, I think the wall, literally the wall, the corner of the stage, really homogenizes combos as well. Because when you get to the wall, like, it doesn't really matter what combo you do. You just do like your most damaging button and hit them and break the wall with it. So definitely, I feel like you're making fewer sort of micro decisions. Like in earlier games, you would have to decide like, okay, am I going to go for a more difficult combo that's more damage? Or maybe like, am I going to go for a character-specific combo because I've played this matchup so much, I know this combo works on this character? Or like, how much meter am I going to spend? Like, all these different decisions. Whereas in this game, it's basically like, am I going to combo into super? Yes or no. Am I going to use roaming cancel? Yes or no. But it's like, it's not that hard to like find the most optimal thing that you can do in that given situation, and then you never do anything else. You just do that one thing. It kind of reminds me of like going from Street Fighter 4 to Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 4 had one-frame links, which a lot of people disliked because they're just really hard. It's kind of like a skill gate that you have to get over to enjoy high-level combos in that game. In Street Fighter 5, they made it so that no combo is harder than 3 frames in a link. So basically everyone just always does the optimal combo. You don't get that same trade-off of like, am I going to risk it for the really hard combo or the really complicated combo and risk dropping it? No, you just go for the best thing every time. And I don't want this to be taken out of context as like JM says that Strive is the SF5 of Guilty Gear. I don't think it is. I'm just saying in this one aspect, the way that they've tried to make combos more approachable and make them more simple, I think they have removed some of the decision-making from the game, which is not entirely a bad thing. I think if you give new players too many decisions, they just get overwhelmed and frustrated. Even like intermediate players, if it's like, oh my god, I have 15 different combo routes, all the character weights are different, stuff like that in previous Guilty Gears, I think could get really frustrating. But in this game, it feels a little bit too far the other way. Like, the room for creativity is not what it used to be. But that's just my opinion. I do think that the game is fun. Let me be clear. But in that one aspect, I think they've simplified things a little bit too much. There just doesn't quite feel like there's as much to dig your teeth into as there were in previous games. So generally, just to close things out here, like I said, I really, really enjoyed the beta. I'm going to be buying the game day one. Honestly, if they ship a game with amazing rollback netcode that looks this good and like feels good to play, which as much as I did have some minor criticisms about the gameplay, the game just feels good to play, which is a really important thing for fighting games. So obviously I'm going to be buying the game day one. I'm going to be making videos about it. I had a great time in the beta, and hopefully the few things that I did kind of have issues with, I'm not imagining that they're going to be fixed on day one. I mean, the game's pretty much done at this point. I'm sure they're going to do some last minute balance changes and stuff, but I don't think the UI is getting changed. I don't think the lobbies are getting changed at launch. But, you know, maybe when the DLC starts coming out, maybe when we get to Season 1, Season 2, whatever, that could be some things that we see change. But regardless, I'm very excited for the game. Let me know. Are you guys excited? What did you think if you played the beta? And once again, I just want to reiterate, fill out the survey, let Arc System Works know what you liked and what you didn't like. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.